Hello, welcome to the 10 dimensions of project management. A quick run through of what exactly project management is, taking a look at the different areas of knowledge in project management. So welcome aboard. The 10 dimensions of project management is based on the Project Management Body of Knowledge Guide, and you can see all of these are trademarks of the PMI. I would refer to the PMP or the CAPM or PMBOK or PMBOK Guide. All of those you can see are trademarks of the PMI. So welcome aboard once again. Let's first of all talk about what a project is. A project is a temporary endeavor that we undertake to accomplish a goal or deliverable. It's undertaken to create a unique product, service, or result, so projects have a start and a finish. Projects are not repetitive, and a project is different from an operation. That is one of the underlying things to remember when you study this content for any of the exam or just professionally. You want to remember that a project has a start date and an end date. It's not like an operation. You want to remember that a project is progressively elaborated, which means the more you progress in time on a project, the more things become clarified, the more scope and cost and risk becomes clear. It is progressively elaborated. Now, there's a difference between a project being progressively elaborated upon versus adding extras. That is not what we're talking about. We're talking about the clarity, the understanding of the full gamut of what the project entails. That is really what we're referring to here. That becomes clear as we go along. Project management is another term that is used quite a lot in the PMBOK Guide. Project management is the application of knowledge about project management, skills in project management and leadership and cost management and many of those sub-areas, tools and techniques to project activities to produce a deliverable. So if you're applying knowledge, you're applying your skills, you're applying various tools and techniques and project management systems and so on, you're applying all those things to the endeavor that you're working on, the short-term endeavor known as a project. If you apply all of that, you're really managing a project. So project management is the application of knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques to project activities to produce a deliverable. Project management can be broken into different stages known as process groups. So in a previous video, I told you about the 5 process groups: initiating a project, which is a genesis; planning a project, which is planning the details; executing a project, which is executing the plan; monitoring and controlling a project, which is making sure things are going according to plan and making adjustments if not; and then closing a project, which is taking all the lessons learned and archiving them or collating the lessons learned, or finally transitioning of the deliverable to the client. All of those things are closing. So we can look at project management in 5 process groups. Or we can also look at project management in what I call dimensions. Now, these dimensions are known as areas of knowledge in the PMBOK Guide. I just prefer looking at these as dimensions. So if I look at a project, I want to make sure that all the dimensions are accounted for in some way in my head. I like thinking about these as dimensions, and maybe that's because I learn visually quite a lot. I also learn by audio, but I like thinking about a project as being a form of a 3-dimensional or 10-dimensional, in this case, object, and all of those 10 dimensions need to be accounted for. So let's take a look at what we're talking about here. We've got project management in the middle. Project management can be broken into these areas of knowledge, these 10 areas of knowledge, or 10 dimensions, as I call them. So let's talk about the first dimension. The first dimension is integration management. Integration management is almost like a catch-all for several things that you may not be able to pinpoint in other areas of knowledge. In that, when we use the word integration, we're talking about the sum, the ability to take all those pieces and make a cohesive sum from them. So without the other areas, you actually do not really have integration. Also, integration involves 2 things that are not talked about in the other areas. The overall idea of change management. So coming out with a change management plan is talked about under integration. Also, when it comes to configuration management, items or widgets such as drawings or sub-deliverables or sub-widgets, how those are versioned and how those are categorized in your firm, your organization. Versioning of those different drawings, for example, is talked about in this domain, but it's not touched in all the other areas. So this area, like I said, could be looked at as the cohesive sum of everything else we're going to be talking about, or it could be looked at as a catch-all for many things that do not fall into the other areas, but are part of the wider area of project management. So integration is all about the unifying, the combining, the uniting of all the different pieces of project management to give you that final whole, that final sum of project management effort. Without good integration, you're not being the best you can be. The next area of knowledge, or the next dimension, is scope management. Scope management involves identifying everything that has to be done on the project, no more, no less. So it involves the efforts towards coming out with these plans, these documents that give you a good understanding of what the client wants. Time management involves scheduling, putting together a schedule for the start of all the activities and the finish of all the activities and the overall timeline of the project. Cost management involves estimating how much an activity will cost, estimating how much all the activities will cost, rolling up all of those activities into a final total budget, and then controlling that budget. Quality management deals with identifying any standards to make your project or deliverable fit for use and conforming to requirements. So if it's a deliverable, you want your deliverable to be fit for use and conforming to requirements. You also want to make sure that project quality, ensuring that all that needs to be done on the project, the way it should be done, may be governed by your PMO, is done. And in some firms, we have special agents checking up on you, making sure you're following the quality requirements for project management. Then we've got human resource management, which is all about planning for how to acquire the team, how to develop and manage the team, and then actually going ahead to acquire the team, develop the team, and manage the team. The next dimension is communications management, which involves planning what needs to be communicated, why and when, and then actually carrying out the communications and then controlling the communications as needed to suit the needs of the stakeholders. Then we've got risk management. Risk is all about uncertainty, but not just uncertainty. Risk management is about uncertainty that could impact an endeavor, a firm, or a project. So in the world of project management, when we say risk management, we're talking about uncertainties that can affect our project either positively or negatively. Then we've got procurement management. Procurement management is about making those decisions to either make something or buy something. And if you make a decision to buy something, then the other processes of procurement, such as conducting the procurements and controlling the procurements, those actually take you into signing a contract or contracts and effective management of the contracts to closure of the contracts. And then lastly, stakeholder management is all about identifying who the project could affect, who could affect the project, and who is interested in the project. So these are 10 dimensions. All of these 10 dimensions should be accounted for on any project. Integration, scope, time, cost, quality, HR, communications, risk, procurement, and stakeholder management. If you could come to any project management professional class or certified associate in project management class, having a firm grasp of the sub-areas of these 10 dimensions, you will be in excellent shape to take on the detail that comes under these sub-areas, which we're actually going to be looking at. So we're going to take a look at the sub-areas of all of these different dimensions. But before I go, let me give you a quick mnemonic to remember these areas or dimensions as I like to look at them. The mnemonic is, I saw two chipmunks quietly having coffee, reading poetry stories. I saw two chipmunks quietly having coffee, reading poetry stories. Give yourself that visual. Sounds funny, but it's a funny visual to help you remember the different dimensions that I've just talked about. So when we come back, we'll talk about the sub areas under all of these 10 dimensions of project management.